And we're coming up live. As soon as you got somebody to talk to, somebody start talking in the chat because I got to go use the bathroom and Zach's by himself.
Got to go check on a dog.
And for the audio version, it can't be radio silence. You got to talk the entire time.
I did that last time. It's fine. I talk a lot.
Yeah, but I feel like it's better if there's someone to talk back and forth with in the chat.
Hello, chat.
I feel like nobody.
Do people still say chat? I just learned that. I mean, I know you brought it up, but I mean, like people were saying that.
I haven't heard it in a little while. That was a brief thing that Erica started saying.
Okay. Hey, Grayson, I'm glad you're back.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Cece.
Well, she's saying
actually, I said hey, Grayson, like he was back, but I don't know if he was in there before.
Yeah, he was.
Kalen, comedy stuff is killing. I've got some big shows coming up.
There you go. Talk about that while you use the bathroom.
Very excited about. I don't know that I ever talked about this on here, but like 2 weeks ago, I did a feature, which is like a longer set. It's like a 23-minute set for a guy named Kostaki Akonopoulos. He is an old Bob and Tom guy, travels the country. Super funny guy. I'm getting ready to open for a guy named Dave Dyer, who has a dry bar special on YouTube. Has another special on YouTube. So comedy is going really, really well. I am very happy with some of the stuff going on. I get to do a 2-man show with Derek Richards from Las Vegas. I apologize. I'm opening for a guy that was just on Kill Tony. If any of you guys watch Kill Tony, a guy that was just on Kill Tony named Mike Hammock from Colorado. I get to open for him. So yeah, I mean, comedy is going great, Kaylin. I'm really happy that somebody asked me about it because sometimes I just feel like I'm here talking in the wind. Yeah, Tiffany, Bob and Zach are on the loose, and it's scary because we don't have an adult around. And if you were part of the pregame, I don't know if you were part of the pregame or not, but we need an adult pretty much at all times. Lynn, help. Yep. Thanks for saying smash that like. Smash the dislike. Just smash something.
Smash the like, people. Oh, so we got to remember. I know I told you the add-on thing, but I've got several things that I want to talk about.
Okay.
That I definitely want to talk about Janet because I know a lot of people are asking about that.
Yeah.
And probably towards the, I don't know if I'll do the end or the beginning about what's going on with the new case.
Okay. Do you want to do add-on first?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that depends on how I come in. I don't want to go. And we got good news.
Yeah.
Janet's safe. I mean, that is good news, but
so it's not exactly housekeeping. I would frame it up as more as like we got several things to talk about that are unrelated to this week's episode that we'll get into first.
That's not what I'm saying, but I wrote something.
That's what I want you to say.
Something unrelated to this episode.
Just kidding. Say whatever you want. We always send big love to Janet and Jessica, but we'll give some extra love from you.
Big back love or something.
All right, and since we're a couple of minutes late because my pregame Nosferatu story ran 2 minutes long, but in my defense, in case you guys noticed, Zach said he did a 23-minute set. You should know there's no such thing as a 23-minute set.
You're right. There's not a 23-minute set.
There's a 20-minute set that runs 3 minutes over. So I'm not the only one that talks too much.
Did that?
Yeah. I was like out there and I heard you say that it's a longer one, like a 23 minutes. Like, there's no such thing.
It sounded good when I said it. I said it with confidence, and that's what you say.
Well, it was a 23-minute set.
It was a 20. It was supposed to be 20.
Yeah,
it was supposed to be 20. I bobbed it up. I was like, you know what? I had my WWBD bracelet on.
What would Bob do? He'd talk for 3 extra minutes.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and run this over.
It was like when we were in that Warsaw show when I came out. I was so excited because I just fucking murdered in that show and was supposed to do 15. He's like, dude, you killed. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, you were a little over. I'm like, was I? Because I was planning to do 10 to 15. He's like, you did a smooth 20.
Smooth 20.
Like, huh? No shit.
Good times.
That's right, Tiffany. Those folks got value for their money. Zach murdered for those 23 minutes.
I did pretty good, actually. I'm pretty proud of that one.
Yeah.
Kostaki played a slide whistle for the first half of his set, which was funny.
Oh.
He would tell a joke, and then, like, for the punchline, he would, like, tell the punchline and go, whoop.
That's fun.
It was kind of weird. It was fun.
Yeah. All right. We're going to go ahead and get this show on the road. So I need to stop this, right? Stop that. Okay, pre-gamers. Thanks everybody, all of our patrons for joining us and being a part of our shit show. And by the way, any of you that are not pre-gamers that are just here watching in the YouTube chat, we talked about off duty and how much we missed off duty and how the pregame show that the patrons get every week, and that's an hour-long show they get every week, is basically off duty all over again.
Pre-gamers, please don't run and tell mom how much we need her when she's gone.
Yeah, right. Yeah. All right. Pre-gamers, we love you. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
And are you ready?
I can be. We don't got to clap or nothing.
No clapping. Here we go.
I got the clap.
Okay.
Yes.
Idiot.
Yes. Yes. Got it on the recording.
Wait, I forgot to tell you. Somebody sent in a Facebook thing right as you were getting here. That I'm going to read that at some point. I'll just so you know, when we're done with the other questions, I'm going to read that.
Okay.
But then also somebody sent me an email with a bunch of comments about it. So we don't need to like stretch out the questions because somebody like somebody's been like into the case forever, like cleared
good.
a whole bunch of stuff up.
Good. Here we go, Erica. Ahoy, friends. Thank you for tuning into Truth and Justice. You are listening to the Friday follow-up for season 16, episode 5, The Disappearance of Kyron Horman. With us currently being between cases, Bob and Erica highlighted the missing persons case of Kyron Horman from Portland, Oregon. We are sans Janet today, but Bob and I are here to answer all your listener questions. But before we get into that, Bob, I think you have a few things to talk about, including some good news.
Yeah, we got a few things that are not related to this episode. We're just kind of doing like a bit of a catch up. I'll start with Janet. So that's not the good news. Actually, I'm not going to start with the good news.
Oh, well, I mean, that's kind of good news.
Yeah.
It's not bad news yet.
Yeah, I realize I just told you to tell you that I'm going to start with good news. But bar on top of Janet. Janet's not here. She has Sketchfest, which, you know, she is one of the founders of Sketchfest and she's running it. It's a 3-week thing. We were going to try to work out the schedule so she could be here this week. But with the, you know, as most, I'm sure all of you know, Janet lives in Los Angeles, and with all the wildfires out there, it's just been an absolute disaster. And her trip to San Francisco got pushed back a day because of that, and it was just too much. We just said, just forget it. I don't want to put any more stress on her. But I do want to let everybody know, because I know there are people on Facebook that have asked, or people sent through the contact form asking how Janet's doing. Janet's good. Her house is okay. It's been rough. I've talked to her almost, I think, every day since these wildfires have been going on, just checking in with her. And it's been rough. And I know she had one close call. There was one day where I don't remember. She tells me all the names, but I don't know where any of these places are.
Yeah.
Runyon something or other. There was a canyon. There was one fire that broke out overnight that was pretty close.
That's so scary.
To her house, and they got put. I guess the way their like cell phone alert system works is they got notified they need to be on standby to evacuate. So, and it just I mean, you can imagine how horrific that is when they're just telling you may have to evacuate and lose your house. Basically, whatever you can throw into your car right now, get it in. So she did not end up getting evacuated, but she did have to go through that process of figuring out, like, what are we going to take and what are we going to leave and lose? Luckily, that fire did get brought under control and her house was safe. And I just talked to her a couple of hours ago today. She's gone now. There are more fires that have broken out, but none of it's, at least as of now, it seems like Janet's home is safe. She's one of the lucky ones out there. But she also does know she has a lot of friends out there that have been evacuated. I know she has a couple friends that lost their houses. Some people that are connected to us have lost their homes. Christian from season 12, his attorney's house, I believe, burned down. If you remember, Marty, who was Robert's cousin from Pinion Pine's case, he lost his home. So, you know, this is far and wide how it's affecting people. And just keep that, I mean, you know, when it first broke out, I was hearing people saying, it was like, oh, it's all these rich celebrities. And we have to remember that that's, you know, those people exist out there, but they're in the minority of the people that live in LA. Think about when you go to the grocery store, go to the restaurant, go to the coffee shop, you know, wherever, all those jobs, those are all just regular folks just trying to make a living and live out there. And thousands of them are losing their homes right now. So it's, I don't know, it's just, it's heartbreaking. But but luckily Janet's place is okay. I also was in communication with Jim Clementi because he lives out there. Jim's okay. As a matter of fact, he already had a vacation plan for that week, and he had flown out the day before. He sent me pictures from out of his window at the fires, but he said where his house was, at least then, was safe, and he was safe because Jim's he's had lung cancer and he's had all these issues. So like the smoke, and so it was real serendipitous that it was like that's happened to be when he was already flying out of there. So he got away from it because like breathing that crap.
Can't even get him.
Yeah, is rough. So
what about the doctors?
The doctor. So when I talked to Janet, when I was talking to Janet a few days ago, I had asked about what about Dr. Scott and Dr. Shiloh, and she's like, "Oh, the fire. They don't live in L.A. They're outside of L.A. and they're like their homes are nowhere near it. They're safe." But now there's been fires that have broken out in Riverside and other areas, and they have gotten closer. Seems like they're still safe because I'd asked her today because Janet's kind of out of the area now. But Dr. Scott on Facebook had said he's safe and his home safe, and so I was like, well, I thought they were nowhere near him. And then she looked there. There've been more fires have broken out since Janet left. That were down in that area, but so far so good. So at least the other people that we know very closely here that their homes are safe, but it's been very difficult. I'm sure very emotional for everybody. It's sad and it's devastating, and I don't even know how that city's going to recover. I don't know where all those people are going to go. So just keep everybody.
Years.
Yeah,
it's going to be years.
So just keep all those people in your thoughts and prayers, just like all the other, the hurricane big. It's been a rough year, man, for this type of stuff. So that's the not so great news. But that's why Janet's not here. But Janet is okay. She's safe. Her home is safe, at least for the time being. But either way, she's out of there. She's safe, and that's what's most important to us because we love our Janet. On the happier news, I haven't had time to really dig into this to see exactly what's going on with this. By the time you guys hear this on Friday, if you're not here in the live chat, it'll probably be kind of old news by then. But today on Tuesday, Ivan Bates, the state's attorney for Baltimore that's handling the Adnan Syed case, has said that he doesn't want the headlines say that Ivan Bates says Adnan Syed should not go back to prison. So I don't know the way I understand from the little bit I was able to read pretty quickly is it sounds like while what's going to happen with the appeal is still being figured out, in the meantime, I believe either he said he's going to, or it's like officially he's moving forward to do so, that Bates is going to resentence Adnan for time served, which means so it's obviously not the outcome where the outcome we want is from to be fully exonerated and Hayes Killer to be caught. But the bright side of it is that if this gets done, then that means regardless of the outcome of this appeal, Adnan will be free. Yeah, there's no world where he will go back to prison for this crime that he didn't commit.
Sucks it would be on his record, but it's good that he'll be free.
Yeah, and it sounded to me from, again, I have not read real deeply into it, but it sounds like this is like an interim thing. Like we're still weighing out to figure out what's going to happen, but in the meantime, let's set everybody's mind at ease and know that he's not going back to prison.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
that's really good. So
that's great. Might as well go through kind of the rest of the housekeeping type of stuff. We have this week. So our season 17 case, we're still not official on which cases. Like I told you guys last week, I was in multiple meetings with attorneys for the case. There's a whole legal team that's working on it, and so this has been, it's a case where there's been a media lockdown. They didn't want anybody talking to the media. But through Dr. Jackson, she really wanted us to. She thinks that we can help and we can make something happen here. So things went well enough in my last meeting, which was with the entire team of attorneys on the case, that they said they still need to discuss. They also need to discuss with the convicted person to make sure that they're on board with it. We don't have a confirmed yes, but they're confident enough in it that they sent us the case file.
Excellent.
So this week, Erica has been doing the Erica things. She's been, reading and summarizing the trial transcript. So if that ends up being our case, we're pushing forward right now. Like we're digging into this case. Erica's already creating all the summaries for it. So we spent 4 hours in the office kind of learning about it. We're actually getting into all the case materials and stuff now. So
I'm interested. And for all the listeners out there, I know absolutely zero about this.
I just was thinking about that. I said that I haven't told you or Janet. Oh,
nothing, nada. I don't know. I couldn't tell you what state it's in. Not a damn thing.
right.
So
it's gonna be a surprise.
I'm excited to hear about it.
Yeah, it's a very interesting one, and it sounds like part of the what's going on is there's some legal maneuvering going on that they're hoping to make traction kind of down this path.
Okay.
And so they're kind of like, do we just go ahead and move forward with starting the podcast, or do we wait and see if this works, or what are we going to do? But that's a lot of what's up in the air. But the meetings went very well. I think if they're gonna turn anybody loose on it, it's going to be us. So that's going on. Also, still working real hard on Jody's case. Had some contact with the Attorney General's Conviction Integrity Unit people the other day. And then I finally got that. Jody had tried to send me, like, there's been something going on with the JPay between me and Jody. I finally got a flood of their messages after it was almost like I started sending Jody messages, and it felt like something was clogged. And when I sent mine through, it like unclogged it, because then all this other stuff came pouring back from the other way.
That's weird, but I'm glad it did.
Yeah, I don't know how that worked out. And it could have been could have been just holding things. You never know how those prisons work, and it if you're trying to look at it from a tinfoil hat side, it'd be like, oh, well, we're going to block all these, Bob. And then they see, oh, Bob already knows it's coming, so we better send it. I don't know. I'm not saying that happened. I don't even think that's what happened, but it's a weird thing because other people were getting messages from them, but I wasn't. But the thing they had sent me the message about was something that I already been, obviously I had been working on it, but they just pointed out a name to me. And so I ended up on I don't want to give away anything that exactly what's going on for legal reasons for what's going on, but that led me to contact someone who spent a long time working at the City of Benton Harbor Fire Department, who helped me identify who the name was that I was working on. I reached out to them. I'm in contact with them now. And so at the very least, I'm messaging them. So it's kind of broke something open up a little bit.
That's great.
We'll see where it leads, but we're still, so that's, that, thank God for Erica for this episode. Cause like I said, everything, she had written it. She didn't intend to write it as a script. She just wrote out all of her notes. But like that was last week was me 2-hour Zoom meeting this day, and then another hour-long Zoom meeting this day, and then talking to this person and chasing this person. Like that's what I've been juggling in the meantime.
And just to give Erica her flowers, we had a ton of listeners reach out and just say how awesome she did with this episode. So Erica, you killed it.
She really did. And to be honest, like some of the like I was glancing through the questions people were asking, and so I tried to go find answers to them. And what I found out was that she did a really thorough job, because if she didn't say it, it wasn't not really out there yet. Yeah, very thorough. And her process drives me absolutely insane. Not because it has any effect on me, but just so you know how Erica works. She's going to be editing this right now. I'm giving away all her secrets. So she handwrites a ton of stuff. Right. So she'll read, like, if you look out, you've seen all the pages of stuff. So she'll start researching and start handwriting stuff. And then she starts typing out an outline. So she had like 6-7 pages of stuff she had typed out after she handwrote it. And then when I came back in to work on like Wednesday or whatever, and I'm looking through it, I'm like, looks good. And she's like, that's not done. Don't look at that. Because if you're going to be using it like to try to go in real time off of it, she said, clean it up. What clean it up means in Erica speak is I'm creating an entirely new document and retyping everything in a flowing format that's more organized.
Girl from my own heart.
Yeah.
But I handwrite everything. Look, I got pages here of handwritten.
Yeah. And she does that all the time with her. And I said, like, again, not that it doesn't affect my efficiency or anything like that. The final product is amazing. But I'm always like, just copy and paste it or edit it. And she's like, no, I'm starting over. It's just like the way her process worked. But it was good enough that like literally what I was reading, it wasn't intended to be a script, but I was almost reading word for word off what she wrote for that. So
man, she did an awesome job.
Yep. Really good. And I'll wait until the end of the episode to tell you guys what's coming up for this week's episode.
Okay, good. And I know I'll address this a little bit. I know you said you got a listener email from a listener that said, or that is very active in this case. So we may answer some questions that we don't get an answer to right away, but maybe we'll get an answer to by the end of this episode based on that email.
Yeah, because I read it. It literally came in right before we came in. It was through the contact form. They basically copy and pasted like a Reddit post and some like subreddit they're
Oh,
in
okay,
about
good.
it. But these are people that have been studying the case for years.
Yeah.
So I haven't memorized it enough to be able to recite it. So we'll go through the questions. A lot of these answers maybe I don't know. But then I want to go through and just kind of read. It's either Johan or Johan. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce the name. But it was just enough good information. I think it's worth reading to make sure we're balancing the conversation.
You know, the one question I had that didn't come up in any listener questions, at least that I saw, which was a little confusing to me, is in the episode, it was mentioned that the police offered up a photo of what was known to be Kyron's glasses, but we have no information. I mean, like, no, there was nothing else with that. That's very strange to me, like where that came from, if they were found, if that was just provided.
Yeah, I don't know. And I'd asked Erica about it too. And like, I don't know. It was just like,
that seems like a major lead.
It was like somewhere in discussion, or it was like there was a police had a photo of it, and it was really unclear whether it meant that police put up a photo of like, these are the glasses. So if you see somebody wearing these glasses, it could be him, or if like they found the glasses somewhere. I think it's probably the latter, or the
prior,
that one.
Yeah.
That is maybe like, this is what the glasses look like.
So that makes so much more sense now that you say that, because I was taking it as the latter, and that they found these glasses and here's a photo of these glasses, you know, and that was strange because I'm like, that seems like a huge lead to not have anything to do with it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't seem, I don't think that's the case, because it seems like the only evidence that I heard when I was listening through it, the only evidence that I heard that I found to be like significant is that they found Kyron's DNA in the bed of the pickup truck. This is Portland. It rains there a lot. So, you know, there's always like, well, it could have been. But like a vehicle that's outside in either the sun beating down on it, wind, and getting rained on all the time, like how long is that DNA going to survive in the bed of a pickup truck? I found that to be significant. And the first thing that jumped out of me when Erica was like reading back, was telling me the stuff she was finding, was the report that Terry had told the school that Kyron had an appointment when he didn't. Because the first thing I thought was like, if that's true and accurate, that sounds like premeditation. Like you're making a plan for them not to realize that, to raise the alarm bells that he's gone.
I mean, the problem is there's a ton of allegations that we have no factual basis on,
right?
Which is rough, but there's so much around this case. Like you said, it seems like on the outskirts of it, it seems like a very simple case,
right?
But it's extremely complicated.
So when we get to this email, so a spoiler for the email that's coming, because I walked away from everything that's available that Erica found, that all the information is out there. Like, well, it sure seems like Terry had something to do with this.
Yeah.
This email like breaks down a bunch of stuff and is like, basically makes it seem like, nah, it's a bunch of bullshit. She doesn't have anything to do with it. So, but we'll see. We'll get to it. Did you have any other questions or thoughts on it before we get into?
I mean, I do have some thoughts, but I think we could probably pop them in here, because I had some thoughts about the timeline. You know, we talk about Terry's timeline in this episode, and there's some weird openings in there for me that I don't understand on the time frame. But again, I don't even know that's something you can, you know, offer up. You know, she talks about leaving the school at 8:45, and then the next designated timeline is she's at a store at 10:10. Right. That's a big gap.
Right.
There's a big gap there. And then the whole like drove around at 11:39. That's another, even if she drove from 10:10 to 11:39, that's a big gap of just driving around. You don't really know.
Yeah. So there were two stores that they went to, and I think Erica had said, don't quote me on this, but they were like either receipts or like surveillance photo. However, like I remember her saying like when she was at that store and when she was at the 24-hour fitness place, those were confirmed those times. But then then there's a gap in between where she says she's just driving around country roads.
Right.
Which maybe, you know, like we always said, wrongful convictions wouldn't happen if there weren't coincidences. But that's one of those like I shut my phone off, and then, you know, the Pinion Pines case. It's like this kid goes missing and you happen to be just driving around on country roads right after he goes missing, and then he disappears.
And, you know, the store receipt making it 10:10, that makes sense.
Was that, I don't remember, was that the next time after leaving school? The first one was
the first one.
Okay.
That's in the episode is 10:10. The next time frame that's given is 11:39 when she says she's driving around. Then the next time is when she checks into the gym at 12:40. So from the time she's driving around, wherever that may be, there's still an extra hour after that time before she goes to the gym.
Right.
So it's not just the time frame from the store to the time she gave.
Well, I think that because you went to two stores, I think it was like from 10:10 to 11:39. That's when she went to the 2 stores, like in that window.
Okay.
And then from 11:39 to 12:40 was when she was driving. So there was that hour is where she was unaccountable. She was
Still
out
an
driving
hour
around
and a
somewhere.
half to go to 2 stores for medication.
Right.
I mean, that seems strange. I get that there's receipts, but it just seems very strange.
Yeah.
to
I
me.
also don't know the geography. I don't know how far apart they are. Like, is it a 40-minute drive between the
Could be.
two? Or is it, why would there be? It probably is a long way, because why would there be 2 stores right now? Unless it's Walgreens where there's one in every corner.
Yeah. And I also, I do have to admit that, I'm thinking anecdotal. I'm thinking about our area and where we drive and how far you can
Right.
get in a time period, And
Yeah.
between 2 stores, an hour and a half, I can make it to a different state easily. I mean,
Right. But if you live in LA, I
Yeah.
still remember when I was working there, they're like, we've got a meeting at 9:00 in the morning. We're going to pick you up at 7. I'm like, how far is it? It's 2 miles.
Yeah.
Like, when I was working out there, I was constantly saying, you know what? I'm going to walk because I'm not going to sit in traffic for 2 hours to go 2 miles. So I'll just walk there.
Oh, makes sense. So we can go ahead and jump into some of these comments and questions. So the first comment is from Tracy. It says, this is the kind of case where enough time has passed that people may be ready to come forward. Allies may not be so loyal anymore. Do you think it's possible in this case?
I don't know the players well enough to know the answer to that. I would think if we're looking at Terry as a suspect, her friend, what was her name? Dee or Dee?
Dee, I think.
Dee. I think that would be the only person that you would hope would come clean.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, because and again, that could be just other coincidences, but it's like she leaves work, and the whole thing about her buying burner phones and a lot of the things, and Erica wasn't able to necessarily find the answer to these either. Were like, I don't know, like no one questioned that, but I don't know how we know that. Right. Like, how do we know she brought the burger? I think a lot of it came out in that Dr. Phil episode, which I meant to watch. I just haven't had time to watch it. Erica watched it. And so I think so. And a lot of it's stuff, if it was not disputed or allegedly written in the notes, was something that like Terry was like confirming in that interview.
Mm-hmm. So Susan in the chat just asked, who covers for someone who kills a kid? Seems unlikely. But in my thought process, it's maybe not covering for someone that killed a kid. It's covering for a friend that they think needs an alibi just because they don't believe that they're guilty. You're just saying, hey, I didn't do this, but I don't have anything to account for my time. Can you just say you were with me?
Yeah.
And I would be like, oh yeah, no, Bob didn't do this. Yeah, he was with me.
Well, sure. But I think that then you find out like, oh, during that time, this kid went missing and she's a suspect. I think most people would back off that. But you have to remember this. Before you say what kind of person would cover for their friend that killed a kid, you got to back up. What kind of person would kill a kid?
Right.
And what kind of people is a person who would kill a kid hanging out with? Like, so like if a person that would kill a kid exists, then it's not crazy to think they'd be friends with a person that would hide the fact that somebody killed a kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. Next question is from Ellen. I would like to know more about Terry and the dad's breakup. Those allegations of murder for hire. Oh, and those murder. I'd like to know more about. Let's try this one more time. Geez, sorry, Erica. This question comes from Ellen. I would like to know more about Terry and the dad's breakup and those allegations of murder for hire. Were there ever any charges? And I think we answered this in the question or in the episode, but we can go forward.
Yeah, there weren't ever any charges filed on that. And the information is not Erica. Like Erica didn't get it wrong, but her source had it wrong.
Okay.
According to what when I break this stuff down from this email from again, Johan later, because they have something, because they talked about like the fact that he had the money, but apparently like she never actually paid him for it. So I don't know, but I know that there weren't ever any charges filed for it. But also like one thing that I caught too, because I re-listened to the episode at the gym today, because it's weird for me to read an episode that I didn't write, so I had to like jog my memory. And the fact that she had supervised visitation with her daughter. Usually that doesn't happen. Like supervised visitation means the courts have said you're allowed to see your kid, but only if somebody's there watching. So there were definitely some concerns about something going on there, right? Whether it was because of the drinking or because of this murder for hire thing, or for her not being cleared, like never officially said she's a suspect, but not being cleared as a suspect in Kyron's disappearance. I don't know what that is, but that's not a normal thing to have to get supervised visitation.
Yeah, that is kind of out there. From our next one is from Jessica, who happens to be from the Portland area, and actually said that she remembers when this case happened. The question is, did the Skyline Elementary have cameras? There are so many wooded areas on the west side of town in the Forest Park area near the school.
I don't know, but I'm guessing no. You would think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like everything is based on witness accounts. Like I didn't see anything like he was last seen on camera in this hallway, which is baffling to me because like our school, there are so many, like anytime any kind of incident happens at our school, they immediately pull the tape on the cameras.
This is also 15 years ago now.
Right.
How readily available were those cameras at the time? I understand that 2010 cameras and the technology were there, but that doesn't mean that they were in all the schools like they are now.
Yeah, I have to believe that there weren't cameras because if there were, I don't think that all of the accounts of where Kyron was that day would be based on shaky witness testimony.
Well, and I almost seen like there'd be a hierarchy of where they put the cameras, right? So they're going to put the cameras in the high schools first, where there's more trouble and more reason to have a camera. Where the elementary schools don't quite have the same reasons to have cameras,
right?
So maybe at that time they just didn't have them.
Yeah, it could be.
Maureen says, "Nice work, Erica." And then it says, "Do we have a time frame on when Dee Dee bought the burner phones?"
I don't. I'm sorry.
And then have either Terry or Dee Dee ever addressed the burner phones?
I think that came up. I don't want to say because I don't know for sure. But I believe that was it was like in the section of the research that had to do with like the stuff that came out during the Dr. Phil episode. So I think maybe it came out there. Again, that was one of the things that because she was pretty good about labeling things about, this is unconfirmed or whatever. And that wasn't one of the things that was like unconfirmed.
Okay. And then her last question is, are the messages from Terry that were allegedly sent saying that she talked about having harsh feelings towards Kyron available anywhere?
I don't know.
Okay.
I know. Sorry. I wish I knew more about the case, but I don't.
It's a tough one, right? And we only know there's only so much out there. If we knew all of it, there'd be a lot more to go.
Yeah. And like I said, I started trying to research like some of these questions and I couldn't find answers to them, but I only had a few hours to do it. But I know that, Erica didn't find answers to those in days of doing it either.
So Colin asks, what do we know about the allegation that Terry asked the gardener to kill Kane?
We'll get into that when I go through this email.
Okay. Colin also says, is it fair to say people turned against Terry when she allegedly failed her lie detector test?
I think so. I think that was a big thing, which is she failed 2 of them and then walked out on one of them. So there was already all this circumstantial evidence around her, and then she fails polygraphs. That's certainly not a good look.
And how do you feel? I mean, in the episode, we talked about that she failed a polygraph, but she said it was a trick question because she asked if Kyron was ever in the truck. And she said, well, I failed because I said he was, but he wasn't in the afternoon. I mean, how do you feel about an answer like that?
Here's the problem. When you have an unsolved case, the police are not required to turn over anything in a FOIA request. So everything we have is like secondhand. Like even the stuff like on Reddit and stuff like that is like, there are people out there that like say they have a connection to law enforcement and they know this and that, but nobody has these documents to know. So we don't know. Like I don't have the polygraph report to know that she's even telling the truth about that.
Yeah. Even the stuff on Dr. Phil is really just pure speculation. I mean, I know that they have them on there and talking, but without actual factual evidence, I mean, it's hard to say.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing you get from Dr. Phil is if, they ask about a thing and she's, explaining it rather than denying it, then, you can probably bet that it's something that actually happened. But yeah, the problem is, you guys know, anybody that's listened for any period of time know that I don't like polygraphs at all. I don't think that we know they're not reliable. They're obviously not reliable. That's why they're not allowed in court. There's too many outside factors that can influence them. And more often than not, what they're used for is to be able to lie to somebody to get them to confess to something that they didn't do. It's a common tactic for our police. If I can get you to do a lie detector, we talk about this with like the read technique stuff, right?
Yeah.
If I can get you to take a polygraph, then I can come in regardless of results and tell you you're screwed. You failed, because I want to get you to try to give some kind of excuse for failing, as to how this happened. That in combination with the read technique draws out confession. I just think it's a pseudoscience that shouldn't even be used.
And one thing that was brought up too in the episode, which was from Erica, and it's no shade on Erica whatsoever. She did a phenomenal job. She discussed when she watched that episode, kind of feeling that Terry wasn't being truthful.
Yeah.
And I think we've discussed a couple times even with the doctors, Dr. Scott and Dr. Shiloh,
Yeah.
that like it's that's something that's just really not, that's kind of junk science to say because person did X, Y, and Z, they're lying.
Right.
So while you may feel that way, we don't really know.
Yeah.
And again, it's not towards Erica. She's fucking amazing. Just, I do it as well.
Yeah, and I haven't seen it. And to be fair too, those were parentheticals that weren't intended to be read. But I said I'll just say this: she didn't buy it.
Yeah.
Because she had wrote some stuff in there about like just side note. When I watched it, I thought this, and that. But we'd also had a discussion about it, and she's just like, man, like all the things I discussed on the episode, which, like I said, we can't use that as any kind of fact. It's circumstantial at best. And this is, and it's an 18-year-old's impression of this without any kind of training even on top of that. But it's worth noting that, when she was watching, she's like, what the hell's wrong with this woman?
Yeah. No, and I remember, I think it was season 12 when Janet and I did the Just Us episode, and then we had the doctors on. We were talking about Javier's, I believe it was Javier's police interview and his body language, and the doctors basically brought that up again, saying that it's just because his body language is saying this doesn't necessarily mean.
Well, there's a whole lot, even people that are like professionals at reading body language and stuff like that. There's still a whole process of like establishing a baseline and understanding, because maybe somebody's twitching in a certain way. Well, that doesn't. There is no thing where people say, oh, if they look up and to the right, they're lying, or this and that. Like, you got to get a baseline. Like, do they always look up and to the right when they talk? Like, you don't know. Like, there's a lot more that goes into it.
Yeah. The next one is from Rachel. First, she says, thanks, Erica. Good job on this episode. Next, her question is, when I hear about Chiron's change of behavior, my mind immediately turns to Terry's teenage son who was forced to move out. Does the timing line up?
I don't know. That's a good question. That change of behavior is definitely something that jumped out of me. Like something's, first of all, stranger abductions are they happen, obviously, but they're very rare. And in most cases, it's someone someone you're close to. If all that stuff is true about a change of behavior, those are certainly indicators. They can be indicators of some kind of abuse going on. We know there was a break. The marriage was on the rock. There was a lot of factors in Chiron's victimology that are concerning to me, that there would be, a family abduction of some kind.
Well, and just to have an abduction from a stranger at a school at the beginning of the day just seems very unlikely. It doesn't mean it couldn't happen, but just seems so unlikely that the child, if Terry's story is correct, the child was left in school and then is just able to wander off and get abducted. Like, seems very unlikely.
Well, yeah, it would almost have to be targeted. And that's another thing to me that draws me back to, again, with my, admittedly, I know there, because the person that sent the email, they're discussing that this is happening on Reddit right now. So I'm cognizant of the fact that there's people listening to this that have been studying this case forever that are probably losing their fucking minds right now.
Yeah.
So I want to make clear, by no means are we claiming to be experts on this case. We're just trying to put the information out there. Hopefully it'll drum something up. But from what I've heard about it, when I start thinking about victimology and profiling of it, kind of what you just said, the first thing I'm thinking of, well, who's the type of abductor we'd be looking for? It wouldn't be, in my opinion, it wouldn't be a random abductor. Like, nobody's camping out at the school at the beginning of the day hoping to snatch somebody up, and where there's buses and there's people and there's all kinds of stuff going on in and out of the school. Like, nobody's just hoping to find a straggler in that situation. So then it comes down to, okay, so it was targeted. It's also like, if you're going to target somebody to kidnap them, why would you do it there? That's the worst possible place to do it. And so that, again, that to me, behaviorally speaking, just kind of takes me back to, it makes sense for, someone like without knowing anything about Terry, I would be immediately saying we need to look at the parents, because like somebody who knows the schedule, knows the routine, knows how the school works, knows how they can move the chess pieces around the board a little bit to get away with this and build themselves enough time to remove themselves from the situation. Like that's the only thing that makes sense to me. Again, like I know I don't know anything about the case, but like that's just how my mind works. Is like there's not, you know, there's not Israel Keys sitting out an elementary school going, oh, I hope if one wanders off, I'm going to snatch him up.
Right at 9 a.m. in the morning.
Right.
Like it just seems so unfathomable. Our last question from the questions on Facebook is from Kathleen. It says, were there any sex offenders in the area? Personally, I believe Terry was involved, but we need to rule out other possibilities.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think that kind of goes back to what I was just talking about too.
Well, and here's the one thing that I will add is if there were any sex offenders in the area, I'm confident there were. I mean, if you look at any sex offender registry, it's horrifying. It looks like chickenpox on your computer. I mean, there's dots everywhere.
Yeah,
so to just say, was there one? Yeah, probably. That also doesn't mean that they were responsible.
Right.
So I mean, not to defend anybody, but just saying, well, like, just because there is doesn't mean they're responsible.
And I want to give the police department there enough credit to think that would have been the first thing one of the first things they would have done.
Mm-hmm.
Between the police department and the FBI.
Yeah.
You know, that they're going to,
especially with the FBI being called in that night.
Yeah. That they're going to be, that they would have been looking
into
that.
I don't want to say it's strange, but it was a pleasant change from what we're used to, that it was moved so quickly, because there a lot of that. Yeah, I think you mentioned the episode. There's usually like a 24-hour wait. And
there's not really. That's a TV thing.
Okay.
And that's what I was kind of pointing out is like everybody's on TV is like, you got to wait 24 hours for
a missing person.
And like if you talk to Jim Clemente about it, who worked with, you know, kidnapping stuff in the FBI for all those years, it's like, no, like the first 24, like if you don't find him in the first, I don't remember the percentage, but it's bad. It's like if you don't find him in the first 24 hours, the likelihood of finding them alive goes down by like 75% or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're not really waiting 24 hours. But the problem is, like, you would be shocked sometimes if you take a smaller town police department that has never, you know, if you're in like New York City and you're dealing with kidnappings and stuff, all the, you know, there's a lot more people there. So there's a lot more crime. But if you're in an apartment that maybe has never dealt with a kidnapping, and then somebody calls or a missing person, something like this, that's legitimate, then you would be surprised how often that does happen. Like Jim's told me stories about how like the local police department were like, well, let's wait 24. And it's literally like, that's what they've seen on TV. Well, let's wait 24 hours. And then they would finally call the FBI in later. And they're like, why the fuck did you wait so long? Like, let's go. Let's find him. Like, if a kid is missing, it's all hands on deck right now. Let's go find him. I was going to Sue, a couple things. So Susan in the chat just made a good point in the YouTube chat. She said, but if Kyron was acting like someone who was being sexually abused, it is possible that the abuse might have been happening at the school. So that's another angle to look at. Now, the thing about that is that's true, but I'm making assumptions here, but I would assume that another one of the first things the police and the FBI would have done would have been to account for all the employees of the school's time. And that's not like a teacher can't just like disappear for 3 hours and nobody notice. Like, that would be obvious if somebody was there and they were gone. So I would like to think that they chased on the lead, but it is a good point.
So one thing, Jessica in the chat said, answering my own question, she was the one that asked about the cameras. It says Kyron's disappearance is what triggered cameras to be in the schools in the Port Royal area.
Oh, well, that makes sense. Answered your own question, Jessica. Yeah. Thank you. Sue Adelson wrote a last minute question in the Facebook thread, but I want to circle back to it because it's not about this case. I want to do the that Reddit post first, and then we'll come back to that. So this again is from, and I don't know, there's some different languages. It's like a copy paste from Reddit. And there's a bunch of different languages. So I don't know where Johan is from. Johan. I'm probably an idiot for not knowing that that's always pronounced a certain way. I'm going to say Johan from now on. Sorry, Johan, if that's not how you pronounce your name. But they had posted in the subreddit they're in to tell people that that episode's out there, the follow-up's coming, and it looks like from the thread there was some, you know, they said it was an even-handed approach. They appreciated it, so I think, you know, that's credit to Erica too, that she made sure she hit on everything. But so this is what they said. I'm just going to read it because there's a lot of good information here. It said it was a good podcast. It was much more even-handed than most of these are, so there are some errors. One is that Kyron's classroom was actually 213, not 209. It's probably not really relevant to us. But that was not on Erica. He said Dr. Phil got that wrong, which is where she sourced it.
Okay.
They said Terry didn't think the science fair was on the 3rd. What she had missed was that the presentations were on the 3rd, while the fair itself was on the 4th. That's why she left before the end. She found out that they already had done the presentations the day before. And again, my only source for this is this email. So this is what this person who's been studying the case understands. I have no way of knowing if it's accurate or not, but I just want to make sure that we're putting as much information out there as we can. Another thing, it says the landscaper did not attempt to give back the money. Even in his story, Terry had never given him any money. What happened was that the police put a wire on him and drove him to Terry after getting the husband to leave with Kiara to try to get her to incriminate herself. But this failed completely, as Terry actually called the police on him, which became an awkward situation. And then there's the theory about the teacher giving Kyron permission to help an unknown man involving the teacher in room 109, not Kyron's teacher. And she hasn't gone on record denying it, though she was deposed for the divorce trial in 2013. They said the source was blogger Blink on Crime, who had some kind of police source. She was the first one to reveal the landscaper's name and was based on multiple witness statements, though we've never seen them. So they're saying that theory that the teacher gave him permission to help somebody, that it's not confirmed, but that teacher has never, at least on the record that anyone's heard, denied that happened. So obviously that would be a huge thing.
Yeah, that would be
there's a clear, obvious direction to look into. Moving on, it says, as mentioned, someone saw Kyron at school at 9 a.m. after Terry left, which would mean that Desiree, that's the mom's supposed witness statement, for which she is the only source, and which Kane, the father, claims was nothing more than secondhand info, must be wrong. And then their final opinion on it is, when told like this with all the sourcing, it really becomes clear just how much of the info against Terry is just Desiree's word. So obviously this poster, doesn't think that Terry was involved with it. I don't know, because it's so much unsourced secondhand. Because like even kind of the way they're putting out about the person seeing Kyron at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Well, wasn't that another child?
I believe so.
I thought it was another child.
Yeah, that they had said they saw him at 9 o'clock, which would have been after she left. But like it's like where, and I don't know the answer to this, but it's like, where do you weigh those two things? Well, this person says this, but this person says this, and they conflict. It's kind of like wherever your bias is, that's whichever one you're gonna believe.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know. So I don't know the answers, but I just want to make sure I put that information out there. Thank you for that email. And with that, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this thing up. But I do want to give you guys a heads up what's coming up this weekend for Sunday's episode. For those of you that are watching it live, and if you're not on Tuesday nights watching our YouTube live, you miss stuff. Because, especially if you're a patron, because for our patrons, tomorrow, Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time, I'm interviewing Delia Diambra from the Counterclock podcast, and she's coming on. That'll be Sunday's episode where we're going to be discussing her investigation in her season 7 case. This has been kind of cool because way back in season 9, when we were doing something similar than this, I interviewed Delia when Counterclock first came out.
Mm-hmm.
And then like a year later, I interviewed her again in like season 3 of Counterclock. And now we're all the way up to season 7. So,
and wasn't there a crazy tieback?
Yeah.
Like on accident?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, there was. Delia is an incredible investigative journalist. Counterclock's a great podcast. She does amazing work. And kind of the whole concept of her show is, they start at the end and they work their way backwards.
Mm-hmm.
So she's doing some awesome work. And it sounds like you may hear a child yapping in the background. We're both trying to figure out our schedules to get this done. And she's like, well, my kid's there. I'm like, my listeners will be fine if they hear a kid. It's fine. Kid hollering in the background. So that'll be Sunday's episode for everybody. If you're a patron and you happen to be seeing this live on Tuesday, you can join in on the YouTube chat during that interview and throw in your own questions there if you want to on Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. If not, again, tune in on Sunday for Delia Diambra from Counterclock. And we'll see you next week. Hopefully we'll have Janet back next week.
Am I supposed to say something? I felt like that was a bad time to say bye, guys.
But yeah, I'll say something here. Erica, you got a whole mess to clean up here. So I said, maybe we'll have Janet back next week. And we'll talk to you guys then. See you guys.
All right. Bye, guys.
Stupid.
I was like, that just felt like, what am I supposed to say? Bye? What am I supposed to say? Yeah, I hope she's back too.
I realized, well, you look like you were loading up for a bye, guys. But then I was like, wait, did I say goodbye?
Yeah, you didn't. That's where I was like, but no, hold on, this doesn't seem right.
Caroline, yeah. Go ahead and do that. There's a GoFundMe for Marty after losing his house. Yeah, go ahead and Caroline, you can post that on the fan page. Let's try to help Marty out if we can. Oh, anything else? No, I don't see anything else. Zach's got a cold ride home, and I've got a cold.
I don't know, a colder. My car is nice and warm. It's just a long.
Oh, you know what? It's not nice and warm right now.
Shit, my keys are out there. I can't even start it.
All right, all the more reason that we're gonna go ahead and end this thing. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys next week. See you, everybody.
Bye, guys.